Hey class, today we're going to cover the parts of speech, sentences, and paragraphs. The reason I put these in this order is we're studying the parts of a sentence, then we're going to study what makes a sentence and sentence level errors, and then we're going to study paragraphs, which are comprised of sentences. So knowing the parts of speech is going to help us to identify what makes a sentence and what a sentence is comprised of, and knowing sentences is going to help us to know what a paragraph is comprised of. So let's start with the parts of speech. We're going to cover the 8 basic or primary parts of speech here. The first one that we're going to talk about is the noun. So nouns are comprised of people, place, things, and ideas. We often don't think of ideas as nouns, but you would think of something like happiness. So let's look at examples from each of these. So the first one is an artist. Artist is a person. And this is a good place to talk about the difference between a common noun and a proper noun. A proper noun is going to talk about a specific person, whereas a common noun is a general representation of all people or all people within that category. For instance, if we look at artist, artist is a common noun because it's a representation of many artists. Where we take Pablo Picasso, now we have a specific artist with a name, so that's going to be a proper noun. Okay, let's move on to places. So here we have the common noun island. If we had a proper noun like Hawaii or Oahu, a specific island, Cuba, these are going to be proper nouns. But here we have the common noun island. Also things, we have a fork. So again, fork, common noun. If you had a brand name, that would be more of a proper noun there. And then we have ideas. For this idea, I've chosen indecision. We look at how this works in a sentence. Indecision is something that a lot of people deal with. So we have indecision as the subject of that sentence. And the main thing I want you to understand is the subject of a sentence will always be a noun. So it can help you to locate the subject by knowing if that word is a person, place, thing, or idea. All right, let's move on to then pronouns. So pronouns take the place of a noun. And one of the reasons that we want to do this is because if we restate a person's name over and over and over in a sentence, it sounds awkward, so it sounds cumbersome. For example, if I said Pablo Picasso took Pablo Picasso's career very seriously, and Pablo Picasso wanted to make Pablo Picasso's art look a certain way. If I say this, we can hear that repeating the name over and over and over sounds weird. So we replace that with a pronoun. In this case, it might be he, it might be his. We want to make sure that we're using the correct pronoun with the correct antecedent. And by antecedent, that is the noun that is being replaced by the pronoun. We see the prefix ante, which means before. So normally the pronoun is going to come before the noun. So we look at something like this. The dog wanted back inside. It was cold and shivering. So where do we have our pronoun? We see that it's here with it. So dog becomes the antecedent. That's the noun that's being replaced. So instead of saying the dog wanted back inside, the dog was cold and shivering, we replace it with that pronoun it. Okay, let's look at another example. The cat that just passed was orange. So here, that is working as a pronoun that modifies the cat. We're talking about which cat. We want the one that just passed. So in determining which cat it was, we're going to use that pronoun that. That is going to define which cat we're talking about, and it's the one that just passed. Okay, so in this case, the antecedent is cat, and the pronoun is that. That refers back to that specific cat. Finally, hamsters can't seem to get along with one another. So in this case, one another is referring to specific hamsters or hamsters in general, depending on how we're using that sentence. In this case, it's more in general, like all hamsters. So instead of saying hamsters can't seem to get along with other hamsters, we use that pronoun, one another, in order to not have to repeat that word, which can sound awkward and cumbersome. Okay, so in this case, hamsters is that antecedent, and one another is the pronoun. Now, not all pronouns have a stated antecedent. We think of the reflexive pronouns like I, you, we. Those aren't going to have the noun stated prior. Other examples of this, who parked on the lawn? We really don't know what noun that is replacing until we answer the question, and then we know who it is, and that pronoun is now replacing that person's name. Okay, but where we don't know the person's name yet, we get this pronoun that doesn't have an antecedent. We look at this next one. Anyone can claim to be the smartest. Again, we have anyone. We don't know who that is. We're just saying in general, this person. Really, if we were to give the antecedent and not the pronoun here, we would be listing name after name after name, and we'd have to name, everybody that we intend to be a part of this group, which could be everyone on the planet. So you can see that the pronoun is needed in this situation. So as I said before, the subject of a sentence is either going to be a noun or it can be a pronoun.